Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Thursday, July 17th, 2025, the 198th day of the year, and hashtag World Emoji Day, which is celebrated today because July 17th is the day featured on the calendar emoji. And according to the people who keep track of these sorts of things, emojis are used by 92% of the worldwide online population every single day. How did our parents, grandparents, and all the generations before that live without emojis? Today is also National Tattoo Day, another popular way people choose to express themselves. If you're thinking about getting a tattoo or maybe another tattoo, today would be the day, my friend. More than a week ago, after the weekend dump saying there is no Epstein list and there's really nothing to see here, I said on that Monday morning, this is not good. A few days ago, I said the story is growing more and more tentacles every day. New theories every day, whether they're conspiracy theories or not, and this is not good. And it's not going to go away. Now, poof, I'm making, the head exploding gesture.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work.
So here's what I'm going to do. Stay with me on this. I'm going to start with the good news, the important news that potentially affects you directly, and then get to the Epstein stuff with Carl Higbie, Alan Dershowitz, and others who think President Trump's comments yesterday only made a bad situation worse. First up, another late night in the Senate, and I love it.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 48, and on this vote, the bill is amended as passed.
He sounds tired, right? That was just past 2 a.m., more than 8 hours after considering amendments on a Republican bill to cancel more than $9 billion in foreign aid funding and spending on public broadcasting. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, who voted against it.
I don't disagree that NPR over the years has tilted more partisan. That can be addressed, but you don't need to gut the entire Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
No surprise, Susan Collins and Marblemouth Mitch also voted against bringing the bill to the floor. Senate Leader John Thune.
What we're talking about here is 0.1% of all federal spending. 0.1% of all federal spending. But it's a step in the right direction.
The package now goes to the House, where they, too, had a vote-a-rama for 9 hours before advancing the administration's cryptocurrency bills. It was a record for the longest House vote in modern history. This was all after President Trump signed a bill alongside victims' families yesterday that imposes more severe penalties for fentanyl dealers.
This is a very special time because we've worked very hard to put ourselves in this position. Today we strike a righteous blow to the drug dealers, narcotic traffickers, and criminal cartels that we've all been hearing so much about for so many years, and very little has been done. And we take a historic step toward justice for every family touched by the fentanyl scourge as we sign the HALT Fentanyl Act into law. Good job. Good job. Real job. Real job. Thank you very much. With this bill, we are officially and permanently classifying all fentanyl-related substances as Schedule 1 narcotics, which is actually a very big deal. It doesn't sound like much. It's a big deal, as they will tell you, meaning anyone caught trafficking these illicit poisons will be punished with a mandatory 10-year minimum sentence in prison. We'll be getting the drug dealers, pushers, and peddlers off our street, and we will not rest until we have ended the drug overdose epidemic. And it's been getting a little bit better, but it's horrible. It's horrible.
Okay, so that's all the good news, the important stuff. And now for the president's comments on the Epstein case, my man, Carl Higbie.
Folks, I want to do this in the most respectful way possible because I still love the president, but this Epstein stuff not going away, and it shouldn't. I have sat there for 8 years, and I've heard both sides tell me that no one's above the law. And now even the Democrats are calling for the release of the Epstein files. Yet you Democrats are so simple-minded. It's almost comical. Democrats are freaking out. Trump's hiding. Release the list. Some Democrats even insinuating that Trump is on this list.
This was a conspiracy that Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and these MAGA extremists have been fanning the flames of for the last several years. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. The American people deserve to know the truth. What, if anything, is the Trump administration and the Department of Justice hiding?
First off, you Democrats are the one who brought this back up in 2017 because you thought it might hurt Trump, but you were dead wrong. This is ridiculous because you, me, and every other Democrat knows darn well that if Trump had any compromising association with Jeffrey Epstein, it would have come out by now. Okay, we know that. He's the most investigated human like ever. Yes, we know Donald Trump was on that plane one time. It was also with his son Eric, who was a young boy, going between New York and Florida. And we know nothing happened. So Democrats, nice try. Because shortly after, Trump threw him out of his club for inappropriate behavior. Yep. I also love your vigor now, Libs, because you're saying, you're just because Trump said let it go, like you're freaking out. Well, like, where was this energy when Biden was president? Because you did have 4 years to be in charge of this stuff, and there was not a peep. But yesterday, Trump was all over it. We were told that Trump hears us and is working toward getting to the bottom of it. But today, Trump said something that's not necessarily helping the position with the base, which still support him, but just want answers.
I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
He's right about one thing. It was started by the Democrats, okay? They reinvigorated this because they thought they could use it to get him, and it failed. But he did end with this.
Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
Whatever's credible, she can release. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good.
So, Pam, I got to say, respectfully, you did say they were on your desk. Whether they were or weren't anymore is irrelevant. It's out of play. Okay? It's that you said they were, and now you're saying there are no files. You see how this is leading to more frustration. If they weren't on your desk, just come out and say, okay, guys, I made a mistake. Okay? You're not going to politic your way out of it. Just own it. And a lot of the scrutiny, a lot of us will be like, okay, cool. At least you owned it. We still want the files and the answers, but we're not going to suspect the worst with you anymore. It's the inconsistencies that lead people to ask the question about Epstein's sweetheart deal when you were affiliated. You were not the prosecutor or anything like that, but you were in Florida politics while he was being prosecuted. Again, I'm not making any allegations. I'm just explaining where many people's heads are right now. Look, if you didn't think this was a big deal, and I'll put a lot of this onto Pam Bondi, why did you invite a ton of MAGA influencers, your base, to the White House and hand out binders that said Phase 1? That honestly didn't have much in it we didn't already know. And Phase 1 implies that there would be a Phase 2, but now all of a sudden we're just supposed to accept the case closed, no list, end of story?
Carl goes on to talk more about Bondi and recap the events from the past week or so, which we all know now, and I'm fast-forwarding to where we are today.
I get Donald Trump not wanting to deal with this while he's trying to wrap up foreign wars, lower interest rates, and stop Iran from getting a nuke, recalibrate the entire global trade policy, and like 50 other things. I get why he's not that focused on it, but let me try to explain this to anyone who thinks we should just move on. I think I speak for a lot of people here. Most of us don't care about Epstein himself. He's gone. The guy was a piece of garbage. What I care about is the fact that two people, him and Maxwell, were put in jail for trafficking minors, and we have no idea to whom. In 2023, before the flight logs released, Tim Burchett sent a letter to James Comer saying, we know the Epstein has associates engaged in child sex trafficking and catered to the rich and powerful elite from around the globe. And now that we have these flight logs from the binders that were distributed to influencers for a ton of people that went to Epstein Island, Some very powerful names among them: Naomi Campbell, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Glenn Durbin, Chris Tucker, Kevin Spacey, Larry Summers, and tons more, according to these flight logs. Who are also the people named female passenger or female one? This is dozens of times on the flight logs. And even Mike Flynn, perhaps Trump's greatest ally, staunch supporter, loyal fighter, came out today and made my exact point, saying, quote, "The Epstein affair is not about who killed him or if he committed suicide. An element that is of great importance surrounding this Epstein affair is the fact that this man was a known pedophile, had a list of clients who represented the upper crust of society, and likely did untoward things towards children on his island and in his homes in New York City and New Mexico, and maybe elsewhere. He was convicted of it. It's not about Epstein or the left. It's about crimes committed against children. If he were a part of an intel operation or known intel operation run by our CIA, shame on them. And those responsible must be held accountable. If there is another country involved, shame on them as well. If there are elites inside our country that committed crimes against children, shame on them. They must be held accountable." Folks, this is exactly the sentiment. How did a math teacher become a billionaire with a private jet and an island, rubbing shoulders with some of the most influential people in a matter of like a few years? Haul every single person on that flight list into Congress, put them under oath, and find out what role they play. And I'm sorry to say, bring the victims in too. And before you freak out on me, let me say, I know exactly how this feels, because I had to be involved with the prosecution of the person who sexually assaulted me. It stepped up and it hurt, but we did it. I think it's a fair question to also ask, what was sealed in the Ghislaine Maxwell case? Can we overrule it? Keep in mind, in the Jeffrey Epstein's plea deal, there was apparently an agreement to not prosecute any of his co-conspirators, but they then prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell. Why? And why has seemingly everyone else been spared? America wants to know if powerful people are getting away with terrible things. That's all. That's what this is about.
Carl Higbie is the host of Frontline, 5 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Next up, Greg Kelly reports.
President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America.
That's how important his victory was. President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution, preserve democracy in America. That's the big picture, and the success so far. I can understand his frustration over this Epstein character because we have been lied to about a lot of this, and I think it was a deep state operation. Oh, yes, I do. Now, I know that there's some MAGA disenchantment right now, and you look at the tweets from all over the place. Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene's upset. A lot of folks are upset. But sometimes you can tell who's genuine and who's not. And a big one's coming up. Yeah, look at that. No. Put that back up. That's the Nikki Haley tweet, everybody. Nikki Haley, the ultimate swamp snake herself, Nikki Haley, wants the Epstein files revealed right away. Her. She's going all ultra MAGA all of a sudden. This is performance art for these people. They think that they can out-MAGA President Trump. They don't know what they're talking about. This is what you need to know. That tweet reveals how phony so much of this is. She wants to see the Epstein files. She could care less, all right? And this is not about women and girls. It never has been with this Epstein stuff. It's about trying to trip up President Trump. Now, there are some allies who have concerns, and I have to correct them. I have to correct my friends. Benny Johnson has done some amazing work over the years, especially on the assassination attempt. Everybody likes Benny. He says something kind of important here about what this Epstein stuff is all about.
The most viral clips on the Epstein topic has come from this show because it's a winning topic, frankly.
Yeah, it's a winning topic. It is a hot topic, and people, right? It's popular. People are fascinated. But there's something else going on around here. A lot of misassumptions and people getting the facts wrong. Next, Benny had something to say and something to show us.
Donald Trump began his political career talking about Jeffrey Epstein. We'll just play it very quickly here. Like bringing this into the public arena was President Trump. That's a matter of historic record. It's not up for debate. And Donald Trump, it was 10 years ago, a decade ago, on stage, before anybody ever heard of Prince Andrew or Bill Clinton and Epstein Island. No one knew about those things. And this is what Trump said at the time.
Pump up the volume, everybody. Pump up the volume.
Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So
Nobody ever heard of Bill Clinton on a predator island before Donald Trump brought it up, or Prince Andrew.
Well, that's not true. 10 years ago, the story was almost 10 years old. Epstein was arrested all the way back in 2005, actually, and he was finally pled guilty in 2008. That's 7 years before President Trump showed up on that stage, and it received major coverage. New York Times, July 1st, 2008, and a lot of sordid details were in there. The bad news arrived by phone last week on Little St. James Island, the Palm Fringe Xanadu in the Caribbean, where Jeffrey Epstein, advisor to billionaires, lives in secluded splendor. Again, 2008. Report to the Palm Beach County Jail, the caller, Mr. Epstein's lawyer, said. The lurid details of the case have captivated wealthy circles in Palm Beach and New York and transformed Mr. Epstein, who shuns publicity and whose business depends on discretion, into a figure of public ridicule. 7 years before President Trump started seriously talking about President Trump, this was everywhere. I remember it. People don't remember. They don't know the difference between 2008 and 2015. And this is, again, 2008. It was national. It was local. It was all over the place.
Jeffrey Epstein went to jail just before 10 this morning. He pleaded guilty in open court. He agreed to serve a total of 18 months in the Palm Beach detention facility, 12 for felony solicitation of prostitutes, and an additional 6 for procuring persons under 18 for prostitution. The conviction stemmed from several incidents from August of 2004 to October of 2005. The prosecuting attorney would not say how many female victims there are. She would only say there was more than one adult victim and more than one underage victim.
Okay, it was in the media, and you heard about how far it went back.
Again, that's Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports, 9 p.m. Eastern. So here's a little more history for you. In the Florida prosecution, which started in the early 2000s, there were witnesses who testified. There was a federal investigation. There was a lot of evidence, and after a long court battle for a few years, Epstein pleaded guilty to the lesser state charges of soliciting prostitution in exchange for immunity from the federal prosecution. Many people know this, many don't, but the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alexander Acosta, who helped broker Epstein's so-called sweetheart deal with the Palm Beach prosecutor, is the same Alexander Acosta who later became President Trump's Secretary of Labor in 2017. I am not insinuating anything. Make it clear, I am not insinuating anything. I'm just giving you the facts, and those are some odd facts. This takes us to Wake Up America and attorney Alan Dershowitz, who got to know Jeffrey Epstein very well when he defended him in a completely separate case.
Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School, author of The Preventative State, and one of Jeffrey Epstein's former defense attorneys, Alan Dershowitz. Good morning, Professor. Let's get right to this. Generally, prosecutors share the evidence with the defense. So if there was a list, you would know about it. The FBI, DOJ says it doesn't exist. Is there an Epstein client list?
Absolutely not. There never has been. Jeffrey Epstein never made a list or created a black book or anything of any people who may have had improper sex with any of the young women. What did happen is the FBI interviewed people, and the courts, judges, redacted the names of some of the people from the FBI files and from other material that was presented to the court. I know who those people are because I obviously did a thorough investigation. And even though the names are redacted from context, I could figure out who they are. None of them are current public officials or elected officials or current prominent people. Some are dead, some are retired,
but there are no smoking guns. Moreover, we don't know whether any of these allegations are true, because among the information that's been suppressed has been negative information about the accusers, because the courts have basically said, look, these accusers of victims, and we're not going to give their names, we're not going to give negative information about them. So what I've said from the very beginning is everything ought to be released. That is, every accused person's name, every accuser, all the information about the accusers, so that we in the court of public opinion can make our own assessment about whether or not these accusations are credible. Some are not. Obviously, we know that from experience.
Yeah, so, obviously you said there is no list. I've also heard you say, though, that Pam Bondi isn't the reason why the information in this case isn't being released. So if it's not her, because it was the DOJ and the FBI that have said, we're not releasing any information, there's no list, who is to blame?
Two federal judges in New York who have presided over these cases. And these judges have redacted the material, and the media could go to these judges now and under the First Amendment seek to have the names released. Now, it wouldn't be fair to release just the names of the people accused without also releasing information about the accusers so that fairly there can be an assessment. I'll give you an example. There's a woman named Sarah Ransom who made accusations that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were involved in pedophile activities. After an investigation, she admitted to New Yorker magazine that she made up the whole story. And so it would be unfair, for example, to release the names of the accused in a situation like that without also releasing the information showing that the woman herself admitted that she made up the whole story. There are people out there who have gotten lots and lots of money from making accusations. Some are probably true, some may not be true, and the public has the right to judge that based on all the information, not just information selectively released by judges.
Yeah, I think one of those I have seen as called on that is actor Kevin Spacey, who has also had a lot of other issues in related to his conduct. He says, I think the same theory. He wants that information released for the same reason.
I agree. And look, the public has the right to know, but the accused people also have the right to have information released that would show that the accusations are questionable or false. In some instances, they may be true.
There you go. Constitutional law professor and former Epstein attorney, Alan Dershowitz, who himself was even falsely accused of being involved with Epstein and underage girls. That was a segment on the Newsmax Daily several months ago. Elon Musk posted on X yesterday, wow, amazing that Epstein killed himself and Ghislaine Maxwell is in federal prison for a hoax, seemingly contradicting President Trump's statement. And minutes later noted that, quote, not a single Epstein client has been prosecuted, not even one, which, again, is essentially what this is all about. The one thing that has been lost in all of this, and Carl Higbie did mention it, is the victims. Possibly in the hundreds, people who in many cases lives were ruined, people with serious physical and mental scars, many whom testified or bravely came forward with information and essentially got a slap in the face. Look the other way. Where is their justice? That's what it's about. Epstein is dead, but a lot of other alleged guilty people are still alive. President Trump said we should be talking about the Biden autopen scandal, which I did talk about yesterday, and I'm talking about again today with Newsmax chief Washington correspondent James Rosen and Congressman James Comer, chair of the House committee that is conducting the investigation.
Few officials in the Biden White House wielded more power more quietly than Anthony Bernal. As a senior advisor to First Lady Dr. Jill Biden with the dual title of assistant to the president, the low-key Bernal enjoyed intimate access to the first family and to all facets of White House operations. Bernal backed out of a voluntary interview with House Oversight Committee staff last month after President Trump waived executive privilege. He appeared today pursuant to subpoena, only to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination.
So we've identified the people that we believe were the ones using the autopen. Now we're starting to bring people that we believe may have authorized the staffers to use the autopen. So we're just trying to trace this back to figure out if Joe Biden had any idea whether or not people were signing his name on legal documents like pardons and executive orders.
Meantime, Newsmax has confirmed that the White House counsel's office in the Trump administration has launched its own probe into the autopen controversy. White House aides say the counsel is working in tandem with the Department of Justice to review some 27,000 pages of documents turned over by the National Archives. The former president himself told the New York Times last week, quote, "I made every decision about his unprecedented use of the chief executive's pardon power in his final days in office," but he also acknowledged he did not examine personally every grant of clemency.
What Biden did is he ended our policies, went to his policies with, he doesn't have a policy. Some lunatic around the desk had a policy. Whoever operated the autopen had a policy, which is, by the way, I think the biggest scandal. That's the scandal they should be talking about, not Jeffrey Epstein. The scandal you should be talking about is the autopen, because I think it's the biggest scandal, one of them in American history.
Bernal is now the second former Biden aide to plead the fifth. Dr. Kevin O'Connor, the former president's personal physician, did likewise last week. Neera Tanden and Ashley Williams, two former White House aides, appeared voluntarily. Tanden said she answered all questions asked by a reporter. If there had been any effort to disguise Mr. Biden's condition, Tanden answered, absolutely not. Bob and Katrina.
James Rosen in D.C., we appreciate that update.
And here now, the man leading the investigation in the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer of Kentucky. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. Where are you at this point in the investigation? As we see more and more of these aides plead the fifth, it certainly raises a lot more questions about potential guilt.
It sure does. You know, there's no evidence that's emerged thus far after two complete transcribed interviews and then two attempted depositions where the witnesses pled the fifth on every single question. At this point, there's no evidence that would suggest Joe Biden had any idea who was using the autopen and what they were signing his name on. That's a very serious constitutional crisis here. That puts all those pardons that he signed and all the executive orders that he signed in legal jeopardy. So this is a very serious investigation. We're giving people in the Biden administration like Anthony Bernal the opportunity to tell their side of the story, to tell that, you know, Joe Biden was whip smart, knew exactly what was going on, and told people, yes, use my signature on this document and that document. And thus far, that hasn't happened. Plus, you add in the New York Times interview that you referenced earlier, where he admitted he didn't know every single person who was pardoning and didn't know that much about him. He said he authorized his staff to do that. That's not how the pardon process works. So he's incriminated himself, and I think that's where we are in the investigation. We're going to bring in everybody that was in the White House and give them an opportunity to talk and then go from there.
Congressman James Comer, chair of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, on American Agenda with Katrina Zisch and Bob Brooks. The next person subpoenaed is President Biden's former Deputy Chief of Staff, Annie Tomasini. I know you're getting tired of hearing a lot of the same old things from Congressman Comer and from the House committee. It's just like the Hunter Biden investigation, where we essentially heard a lot of the same stuff and about subpoenas for a long time. These things take a long time. Eventually, there will likely be some charges in this case as well. In other news, the DOJ has fired veteran prosecutor Maureen Comey, who worked on the Jeffrey Epstein case and also recently worked on the Diddy case, failing to prosecute on the most serious charges. She is the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey. You will be hearing a lot about this today. And Democratic Congressman Greg Meeks of New York, a ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, is pushing for a vote to stop President Trump's tariffs using a discharge petition, which would end the national emergency declaration that was used by the president and House Speaker Johnson to approve the procedural motion on the tariffs. Meanwhile, the president is signing another executive order, or maybe more than one executive order, at the White House today in a closed-door event, meaning there will be no impromptu news conference there. However, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt does have a press briefing this afternoon where she will undoubtedly face some very tough questioning. And on Wall Street, the rally continues. The markets opening in the green this morning after another day of solid gains yesterday. President Trump announced on Truth Social that he has been talking with Coca-Cola about using real sugar cane in U.S. Coke, like they do in other countries, instead of high fructose corn syrup, and that Coke has agreed to do so. A statement from the Coca-Cola company said it will have an announcement soon, and that appreciates the president's enthusiasm for its products. You know, the president loves his Diet Coke. Bitcoin is slightly lower this morning. Most other major cryptocurrencies are higher. Bitcoin down just several $100s at 118,500 or so. Ether now pushing 3,500, and XRP up 20 cents at $3.23. Perhaps the big XRP breakout that I've been hearing about for months is beginning to happen. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news and breaking developments throughout the day today on Newsmax N2 and at Newsmax.com. Also, make sure you have the Newsmax app on your phone so you can keep up to date anywhere, anytime. It all starts each and every morning with Wake Up America. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening. Make sure you use lots of emojis today on wherever and whatever you're posting. Pay attention and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.